Call the meeting of the Beer Board to order on September 15th, 2009. We do have a quorum here this evening. Would we like to elect a new chairman and vice chairman, or do we have...
Madam Chairman, we can go ahead and do the minutes. That would be great.
Oh, approve the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes from the last meeting? Anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the minutes from the meeting of June 16, 2009 have been approved. The other business we have on whether we want to elect the new chairman, vice chairman tonight, or postpone it to a future meeting.
Make the motion to postpone it for the next meeting so everyone will be in attendance.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now, on to new business. We have off-premises beer permit application, which is a renewal for Laverne Smokes and Brews, located at 5033A Murfreesboro Road. If there's anyone here for that establishment, please approach the podium and state your name for the record. Do we have somebody here?
He's not here. You may want to put that off to the end of the meeting.
All right, we'll postpone that one. Come back to it. Next order of business would be an on-premises beer application renewal for Wilston's, located at 1925 Madison Square Boulevard, Suite 800. If someone is here representing Wilston's, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Rick Stansel, 1925 Madison Square Boulevard.
Thank you, sir. Upon review of the record for Wilston's, we have not had any complaints from our officers or anything on file that I'm aware of any problems with Wilston's beer permit. If anyone has any questions for them at this time? If we have no questions for them, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the permit.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
So, it's unanimous that you have been
All right.
renewed.
thank you.
And Bruce will get with you tomorrow to get your renewal taken care of. Once
Okay.
it's signed and everything.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have a good night.
All right.
All right, next order of business, on-premises beer permit renewal application for La Cabana, located at 5230A Murfreesboro Road. If you'll approach the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Norma Ambrose, and La Cabana is located at 5230A Murfreesboro Road.
Okay. This one also, through the Laverne Police Department, has had no known problems, and we have nothing on record throughout the beer permit, or the beer board, excuse me, records of any problems.
Make the motion to accept the permit reissue.
Anyone care to second?
Before we second, I have a quick question. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure I know the answer to, but these are going to fall under our new guidelines, right? Because they're permits.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. Yeah, I'll make a second to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You have been renewed for the new beer permit, and Bruce will get with you tomorrow after it's been signed and everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Did we happen to have anyone to show up for the Laverne Smokes and Brews renewal? I'll take that one as a no. All right. On to the rest of our new business. We would need whoever is here for the pantry doing business as Kangaroo Express 3613, located at 5183 Murfreesboro Road. This is a motion to penalize, revoke, or suspend the permit due to selling beer to an underage person. Hi, sir. If you'll state your name and reason.
Yes, I'm Chris Oliver. I'm attorney for the pantry. And I'll also say for the record that Rose Bose is here on behalf of the company, as well as Mike Evans, who's the division manager for these stores that we're going over tonight.
Okay. We will be taking these one at a time. Actually, before I have you tell us anything other than who's here for the pantry at this particular location, I'd prefer to actually have one of the officers come up and let us know what had happened so that we can make a decision on that.
I'll yield the podium.
I appreciate that, sir. If you'll state your name and address for the record, sir.
I'm Officer John Eubank with the Vergne Police Department's Crime Suppression Unit.
Thank you.
You just want me to give you a brief rundown of the synopsis of what happened?
Does anybody have any objections to that, or do we want specific to different restaurants? I mean, they did this all at one time. Everybody okay with the brief rundown of? Sure. All right, that'll work.
Okay. We did an operation, a joint operation with the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission. We had a 19-year-old informant that we sent in, clearly wearing audio and video, a pen camera device to record the transaction, clearly showed his ID to the cashier that worked for Kangaroo Express, and she still sold an alcoholic beverage to him. She was later cited in a court, and right now she's under a diversion program with the probation department, Rutherford County General Sessions Court.
And you said she, so I'm assuming you're talking about this particular pantry, Kangaroo?
Yes, ma'am. I have her name if you'd like it.
Okay.
It's
Did we?
Miss Tammy Brandon Roberts.
All right.
This operation was conducted on Tuesday, March 10th, 2009.
And due to past experience with this board, I do have a few questions for you on, was the informant...
Madam Chairman, sorry to interrupt, but could we clarify the address of this particular store, since we've got two, it looks like, on the agenda?
This one is the 5183 Murfreesboro Road.
That's
is
correct.
the one that we're speaking of?
That's correct.
Okay. The questions that I was wanting clarified due to past experience with this board is, first off, was the informant that was used taken a picture of prior to going in as well as coming out, and
He
all
was.
of the...
He was videotaped in the parking lot, in the vehicle, in the parking lot going in and coming out as
Okay.
well.
And within the 30 days, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Cope, the letters were sent out?
Yes, Chairman. Letters were sent
The
out.
30 days was the question I was asking you, was that correct? And they were?
They were.
All right. Did anybody have any other questions on how this took place?
I have no other questions.
I have no questions.
Okay. All right. Well, if you will allow the attorney to come back up, we'll move forward with this, and we will bring you back for the next one.
I will.
Thank you, sir. All right, as we stated with the officer, we are only speaking of the pantry doing business as Kangaroo Express, store number 3613, located at 5183 Murfreesboro Road at this time. And at that sting on March 10th, the officer stated that one of your employees, or one of the store's employees rather, did serve to a minor, and that the letters were sent out. Did your company actually receive that letter within the 30 days?
No, and I believe that it's a 10-day requirement to the permit holder. But if I could just say to the board that we don't dispute that this happened, and we just want to try to get a reasonable penalty and move on. And so we'll save those issues if we have to appeal. My understanding is that he needs to be photographed. I don't know if video will work or not. And we are supposed to be notified within 10 days of whether we passed and failed and who the stinger was and who the employee was that sold them. And that's supposed to go to the permit holder. But again, we just soon not argue about all that. There is no doubt that this lady served a minor alcohol, and my understanding of it is that she misread the ID. At this particular store, they have to key in the birth date, and I believe she did that. I don't know if the officer could tell us that or not, but obviously she thought he was old enough or the stinger was old enough because they actually literally put it in, and we know that from interviewing her because she is no longer an employee. If you all recall that anytime we have something like this happen, we have to terminate the employee. And in this case, Ms. Roberts was a 5-year employee and the manager of the store. And actually I'm getting my stores mixed up. It's the other store where she miskeyed and had vision problems. This lady, Ms. Roberts, was the manager and had been there for 5 years. My understanding is she just got careless. So, you know, the facts aren't in dispute. You know, we can argue about the notice and the stinger, whether that was carried out, you know, if we have to. But you know, we don't dispute that, and we want to be responsible. I know you all have heard me say this. We're going to be here doing business, and we want to get along with you all. So she lost her job. Every employee gets retrained when something like this happens. So that was done. I visited both the stores with the management today, and they do have the signage up front that says We ID. They've got a calendar right in front of them and an electronic calendar that they're supposed to use. And but in this case, human error is what happened. And so we're not here to make excuses. And we just ask, you know, for a reasonable penalty. I know that this board is still fairly new, and my request for consideration for the board would, you know, obviously it's going to be something worse than the first penalty. But in my experience of representing this company and others across Tennessee, these things get graduated. So this penalty is going to be a higher monetary penalty and a higher suspension, you know, if it's in line with the other beer boards that I appear before. And so I would just encourage the board from the vendor's perspective to try to adopt some guidelines so that we know what's going to happen, and that'll be fair across you know, to all stores, that different stores get treated the same way when they have the same violation. And so I answer any other questions about this one or whatever the board would like.
Personally not recalling whether y'all had completed the responsibility, vendor
I'm new.
responsibility or not.
We're not enrolled at this point. I did bring, if you'll permit me, if you'd like to see it, we have 108 plus stores in Tennessee, and we have been working with the state to have our program approved.
But at the time of the
At this
thing,
time,
you
we're
were
not enrolled, but that is still in the works, and obviously these stores will be some of the first to be enrolled. And I would say on that point that what looks like it's going to be approved by the state is what we already do. It's just going to be, you know, certified. We have to pay some extra money and have it, you know, stamped by the state, but it's what we already do. And they're trained, to remind the board, they're trained for about 6 hours on computer-based training for age-sensitive sales. They can't move on to the next segment until they score 100. And then when we don't just unleash them on the register, once that happens, they get, I believe, 24 hours, 3 8-hour shifts with somebody right there with them, showing them, you know, how to key this stuff in and look at IDs and all that stuff. So we feel like we're doing about all we can to try to prevent it. But again, it happened, and we don't, you know, we're not here to make excuses or deny it. Just try to keep figuring out ways to emphasize it. And I will say, I spoke with Mr. Evans, who again is the manager for these stores. One thing we're going to try to do going forward is have a daily sign-in where the clerks come on, and after they clock in, they're going to sign every day saying that they will enforce age-sensitive sales. You know, just we call it a daily commitment, and we do it at some of the other stores where there are issues of repeat incidents like this. And so it's just a reminder when they come on, clock in every day, they have to, you know, sign off saying that they will card. So, you know, and if you all have suggestions, we're all ears. But it's, you know, it's a battle that we're going to fight. But we want to do business here, and so we're going to keep doing everything we can.
All right. Does this board have any other questions? Okay.
I don't know if it's a question as much as a comment. I guess my problem, you mentioned as far as what action this board takes and laying out that there should be some consistency, but I guess my problem is we have 35 permit holders. How many are coming before us every year failing a sting? And this is a sting. I mean, this isn't everyday sales. I mean, we don't know how many times minors are going into these stores and purchasing alcohol for themselves. We just know it's happened twice in a sting. So I guess I'm asking you a question. Do you think that should be taken into consideration as far as a punishment?
The fact that it was a sting, is that the question?
Well, no, the fact that it's happened in consecutive years in stings.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, that's my only point is that this is a fairly new jurisdiction for a beer board. So, yeah, I think long-term, you're going to see who has a long-term bad track record and who doesn't. And I understand, you know, we've been here 2 years in a row. And this is a second violation. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And, I mean, I think that's what you should take into account. My point is that, you know, like I said, time will tell. And I think that that's one of the board's only guidelines, is that it try to treat people fair across similar incidents, and that's all we're asking for. But you know, it is a second. There's no denying that.
I just think that somebody whose second offense is 5 years later would be treated differently than someone whose second offense is 1 year later.
Absolutely, and I've seen boards that'll have roll-off periods, and I know that's up to you guys to decide. But I've seen, you know, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year. I don't know if I've seen that long, but whatever, where they roll in and out. And you know, like I said, we want to be partners with y'all. I'm happy to talk to Evan or whoever about my experiences, but you know, we're not. You know, the point is that we don't want to be treated. You know, especially for the good or the bad. And but I understand your point. We are here for the second time, and somebody else will be here for the second time. I mean, eventually. And I think that's what one thing to bear in mind. I'll sit down and let y'all
I think
decide.
bearing in mind that this is the second time, this is a 19-year-old. If it had been my 19-year-old or my family that had gotten hit by a drunk driver that your store had sold the beer to, it would be a different conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Different stand here.
That's right. And with, you know, with civil and criminal consequences as well,
Absolutely.
I might add. But, you know, thank goodness that didn't happen in this case. But,
Or the
you know,
last.
again, we're not here to make excuses. So.
Okay.
All right. Even though the testimony has basically answered this question, we still need a motion on whether or not the pantry doing business as Kangaroo Express, store number 3613, located at 5183 Murfreesboro Road, actually did not abide by our ordinance in Laverne, our beer board ordinance. Did they actually violate our ordinance? Okay, I said it confusing, so I'll make the motion. I make a motion that this particular establishment did violate our ordinance and deserves some type of punishment.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, unanimously on that one. The type of punishment. We have at our hands the possibility of revocation, suspension. Suspension can be up to a year due to the fact that they are not responsible vendor at this time. Civil penalty can be added to any of that time, up to $2,500 if we so choose. And with all that at hand, does anyone care to make a motion? And while y'all think about it, do we actually need the permit holder or someone responsible at the podium to bring this down, or is that necessary? No?
No,
Thank you.
So we can't have a suspension and a monetary value.
Well, it's actually, I was going to
It's in
correct
lieu
the
of.
chairperson. There's a function called a fee in lieu, where you can have a suspension, or in lieu of the suspension, you give the permit holder the option of paying the fine or the civil penalty, which can be now up to $2,500. Right. Or you can just assess a civil penalty at $2,500 or up to $2,500 and not suspend, or you can suspend and not offer a fee in lieu.
Right.
Are we allowed to talk amongst ourselves, or does somebody have to make a motion and then it be discussed?
Well, I think under parliamentary procedure, you'd have to have a motion and a second to debate a certain
Okay.
penalty. So if somebody wanted to make a motion and second it, then the floor would be open to debate on that particular issue. Then you'd need to vote on that.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion for a 2-week suspension, 14-day suspension. My logic on that is this is the second time in as many years. I don't believe that a monetary fine is enough in this situation. I think we all agree that this is a sting. This is a time that somebody went in there and they got caught. The second time in a year they got caught. How many times over the past 24 months has someone actually bought alcohol from them as a minor?
Right.
How many times have they gotten on the road and driven and we don't know? And I understand we can't hold that specifically against them, but I believe the fact that they've been caught in stings 2 years in a row, we can hold against them in consideration of the fact that this store has shown greater irresponsibility than 34 other stores.
Right. I'm okay with the suspension. I'm not okay with 2 weeks. I'm looking more like 3 months.
Okay. That's why I was kind of going with the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, because the original one was 14-day suspension and ended up with a $1,000 civil penalty.
Right.
Now,
Where
and it was actually only 14 months. It was not 24. The last time they
Yeah,
were stung was in January,
I guess that's true.
of
I was
08.
thinking over the course of 2 years, but that's a very good point. How many times?
or the last time they were actually convicted, excuse me, was in January of 08.
Madam Chairman, his motion would need to be disposed of one way or the other. So
Okay, we didn't have a second on the motion, so that one actually fails. We would need a second motion because there was no second to.
Okay, I'll make a
Michael's.
motion for a 90-day suspension.
Do we have anyone who would like to second the 90-day suspension? I'll actually second the 90-day suspension due to second time, and last time I stated my case very plainly on how I feel with especially this particular store being near the neighborhoods as it is, and the children pass there going back and forth to our park on a regular basis. And as Mr. Jolly said, that, you know, just because you were caught in a sting and are here before us doesn't mean it's not happening on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis. And yes, we are a new board, but yeah, we do need to make a statement and start marking in the sand, as you will, where we'll go and what we'll accept and what we won't accept from our vendors in Laverne. So now that we have a motion and a second, all those in favor? The motion stands at a 90-day suspension. for the property for the pantry doing business as Kangaroo Express located at 5183 Murfreesboro Road.
I'll vote in favor. Aye.
I'll vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. So unanimously, it's a 90-day suspension. All right. Now, I have a question to the board. Do y'all want to go in order of the agenda, or would you like to go to our other second offender next?
Doesn't matter to me.
I guess before we go on with that, I need to ask when that would be effective and if it could be effective in a few days so that we can consider where we want to appeal or not.
I believe
Typically, it's as they leave here this evening, is it not?
I think Mr. Richardson has the order for you to sign. It would go into effect immediately. It's, yeah, the order's been prepared to be effective the 15th day of September 2009.
So it would actually go in effect this evening, that the coolers would need to be locked this evening at that particular establishment. And with no one caring, I'd prefer to go ahead and just go with the agenda, if that's all right. All right. Our next order of business is in reference to the pantry doing business as Kangaroo Express, store number 3584, located at 519 Waldron Road. And if our officer would please return to the podium to explain to us why they're before us on possible revocation or suspension of selling beer to a minor.
Chairman, board members.
Yes, sir. If you'll state your name and title for the record.
Officer Buster Locklear, Laverne Police Department, Special Operations Division. Buster Locklear, Laverne Police Department, Crime Suppression Unit.
All right. And were you present for this particular location, the store number 3584?
Yes, ma'am, I was. Store is located at 519 Waldron Road, City of Laverne. On March the 10th, officers with the Crime Suppression Unit and the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission conducted a citywide operation, including the then 33 businesses with permits in the city. Using the same 19-year-old confidential informant, we made an attempt to purchase an alcoholic beverage at this location and were successful.
Can you tell us the name of the person you purchased it from for the
Yes,
record?
subject's name was Deborah Young.
We didn't ask this with the previous permit holder, but there didn't seem to be any question about whether there was any guilty. Or can you, I guess my question for Ms. Young, do you know any information as far as what she did? Did she look at a card? Was there no card presented?
She did look at the subject's ID. The ID showed his right age, under the age of 21, and he was successful buying a 24-ounce bottle of flat tire beer. She did plead guilty with a diversion and was issued a fine, probation, and 100 hours of community service.
Does anyone have any other questions for the officer at this time? All
Oh,
right.
and just for the record, the letters were mailed out from the department on the 12th, and this particular letter was signed, receipt was signed on the 20th. It was sent through the U.S. Postal Service certified mail. We have the receipt and return signature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Okay. All right, for the representation of the pantry doing business as Kangaroo Express, store number 3584, located at 519 Waldron Road. Please approach the podium.
Still me.
Yeah, it was. All right. Do we
So
have-
I was glad to hear that his testimony matched up with what I said, which was that she actually put the ID in. And I didn't hear whether he had photographs before or after for this particular one. And if it's possible, I'd like to see the letter and the certified mail.
Do we actually have that present this evening?
Let's let the record reflect that Officer Locklear has to me, the city attorney, a copy of the correspondence and the certified mail, along with photographs, and I'll tender those to Mr. Oliver if you want to inspect them.
I can approach?
You may.
Yes.
And I'd like the record to also reflect that Mr. Oliver is again representing the pantry on this agenda item number 7.
Okay. Any pictures of the senior, the 19-year-old?
We don't provide pictures for our confidential informants.
Okay, so there are no pictures?
Yes, sir. There's video, there's photographs.
Okay, but not here.
Correct.
And this is not dated or signed? Do you have a copy that's dated and signed?
Dated as far as,
The letter itself?
no, so the letter's not dated. This was a letter that was sent certified now.
Right. But there's no date on this letter, right? Is there original of this that's actually signed?
That is a copy. I don't have the original.
But this one's unsigned, and we do.
Yes, sir, I understand.
Okay. Is it your understanding that there is one that's signed?
Yes, sir, that's a copy from my case file. I don't have access to the original.
And the one that's signed, do you know whether it's dated or not?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
And before we actually go back, I would like to know the dates for the record on the certified mail.
Madam Chairman, it may be more efficient just to make this part of the record, and we'll allow the court reporter to make a copy of these items and make those part of the record unless there's an objection.
No objection. I think that's a great idea.
That'll work.
And I understand the point you're making about the certified mail. And, you know, this was the same deal. Like I said, the lady misread the ID. I think that's what this boils down to. This one is a first, and so in lieu of that, I'm going to be quiet and let you all debate and try to get out of here.
All right. Would anyone care to make a motion on whether or not the pantry doing business is Kangaroo Express, store number 3584, located at 519 Waldron Road, because of our testimony from our officer, has or has not violated our ordinance?
I think a violation has occurred, and we need to take the next step.
Would you like to make a motion saying such, sir, so we may vote on it?
Yes, that is a motion.
So the motion on the floor is that a violation has occurred at this location. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, now that we have established that there was a violation to our ordinance, what type of punishment should be handed down is the decision on the table. I personally would make the motion of 14 days with benefit of $1,500 civil penalty in lieu of for their choice due to first time.
You're nicer than I would be, but I'll second that.
All right, we have a first and a second on the motion for this establishment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Alice, did you? You did? Okay.
I did.
I did not hear.
It's okay.
All right, so for the pantry, doing business is Kangaroo Express, store number 3584. It has been so decided that they have punishment of 14-day suspension with availability of $1,500 civil penalty in lieu of. All right. Next order.
See if he has any comments.
We don't have any further business. We'd like to be excused. But
You
before
certainly
that,
may.
I would like to say it might be better for all of us if we got that first violation, that we also made whatever officer notes he has.
Part of
Be entered.
on the record.
That'll work.
Well, that would be subject to seeing exactly what those notes are. I mean, I don't think you can consent to turn the entire file over, but
Yeah, I would want, my request would be, Mr. Cope, whatever, just the relevant points from our perspective on the sting, which would be the photographs of the stinger and any notice to the permit holder.
well, I would suggest to the chairperson that we don't need to agree to that at this juncture. If it turns into something, obviously there are other avenues to obtain that, but
Absolutely, I understand. And so we can be excused.
Yes, you may.
And as far as the first store that we went over, we need to, when is the order effective?
Both orders are effective as of this evening, that the coolers need to be closed for this evening. The fine, if you choose on the second store, being the store number 3584, the fine could be paid, the civil penalty could be paid first thing in the morning during City Hall regular business hours.
Okay, so we need to go ahead and lock the coolers when we leave here, and then once we pay the fine,
on the
On the store number 3584 only.
first offense.
Yes, the first offense store.
let me just be clear about this, because I
Let's
may
give
have
addresses.
part of that, but the store 3584 that received the 2-week suspension or fee in lieu, that suspension would not go in effect for a period of 7 days. You've got 7 days to pay the fee in
Okay.
lieu if that's your choice.
Because that's what our ordinance states.
Thank you.
So that would not need to be chained up. You would just need to pay the fee if that's what you're going to do. If not, then you need to.
Okay. And I would say, I hope the board would consider that on suspensions going forward, because it basically deprives the permit holder of even appealing the decision if it's effective immediately. But that's up to you guys, and we appreciate the consideration tonight.
Thank you. The civil penalty is the only thing that holds the 7 days. Okay. Or allows the 7 days. All right. Moving on with the agenda. Motion to penalize, revoke, or suspend the beer permit for Mapco Express, store number 3318, located at 588 Waldron Road. If we can have an officer explain to the board on why they would be coming before us this evening. If you don't mind, for the record, stating your name and title again, please, sir.
Officer Buster Locklear, Laverne Police Department, Special Operations Group, Crime Suppression Unit.
Thank you. And in reference to the Mapco Express at 588 Waldron Road?
Yes, ma'am. On 5588 Walden Road, MAPCO officers conducted, with the assistance of the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission, an operation. The operation was Operation Young and Sober, where we sent a 19-year-old unidentified confidential informant in to attempt to purchase an alcoholic beverage. He was successful in doing so and exited the location with a 22-ounce bottle of lager beer. We then went back to the location and made contact with the cashier, Mr. Harold Lloyd Thompson, Jr. Mr. Thompson was issued a citation for sale of underage sale of alcohol. I'm sorry.
And as with the others in this sting, was a letter sent out, photographs made of the stinger prior and after?
Yes, this incident was also recorded with our video system. A letter was sent to the contact person, and we also have confirmation of receipt, delivery of the certified mail.
Okay.
Also have a copy of the affidavit where where Mr. Thompson was arrested, and he also pled guilty to the offense.
All right.
Any pictures, mail, or anything that you would like to show the board?
I have a photograph of the evidence that was purchased at the location. Have a copy of the letter that was sent to the permit holder, contact person. Have a copy of the police report, copy of the citation, copy of the affidavit, and of course copies of the receipt for the certified letter.
Thank you.
At this time, I feel that it's staying a part of the file unless so other requested is fine.
I understand.
So if we have someone here representing the MAPCO Express, store number 3318, to please approach the podium. Thank you, sir. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kyle Berry, District Manager for MAPCO Express.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
I don't think we've asked this on the others, but what's your policy and your programs on?
We are a Tennessee Responsible Vendor participant. We actually are certified in this location, and this employee was certified. I do have their certificate at hand if you guys would like to
I would.
view it.
I would.
Absolutely.
I'd like to have a copy of it for our records.
You're welcome to have that.
Make it part of the record.
All right, we'll make this copy of the MAPCO Mart, MAPCO Tennessee Responsible Vendor Course Certified Clerk, a copy for the record. And they completed this January 23rd, 2008 at the store number 3318.
Correct.
And for future reference on this board, are all the MAPCOs in Laverne?
I'm sorry.
Are
repeat that.
all the MAPCOs in Laverne? This is just curiosity
Correct.
question.
We, in the Middle Tennessee area, we have approximately 145 stores, and all of them are certified, and we're probably at least 95% certified as far as employees.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Well, so you do not dispute that, that this particular person? Okay.
Do not.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
All right, at this time, the board needs to decide on whether the ordinance was violated. I'll make a motion that the violation to our Laverne Beer Board ordinance was made selling to under 21.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we unanimously decide that there was a problem to cause penalization, or what kind of punishment will be determined in our motion.
I'd like to make a motion for a 14-day suspension.
Let me comment here. This is another area of the law that's going to come into effect, and I'm sure the gentleman realizes, but under the Responsible Vendor Act, your options in terms of penalties are limited to where you can't suspend or revoke the license, but you can issue a civil penalty of up to $1,000. So anywhere from $1 to $1,000.
So
Okay.
you cannot suspend.
You cannot suspend or revoke.
Okay.
Okay, that part the board was not clear on, so thank you.
Okay.
Good, thank you. I'd like to make the fine for $1,000 for this particular incident.
I'll second that.
All those in favor with that?
Aye.
Aye.
No. The ayes have it. So,
You can take a roll call vote, Chairman.
okay, roll call. Ms. Miller?
I'm voting aye.
Aye.
Mr. Blair?
Aye.
No.
Guess we should have discussed beforehand.
All right, so the ayes have it on Punishment being a $1,000 civil penalty for MAPCO Express, store number 3318, located at 588 Waldron Road, for selling to an under the age of 21.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, the next order of business.
Before we move on, can I get clarification if no suspension is, because typically it's 7 days you have to pay or be suspended, does that mean they have as much time as they want to pay the penalty since they can't be suspended by this board?
No,
They still only have the 7 days for the civil penalty.
What would be the penalty if they didn't pay in 7 days?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I'll find out.
Let's hope we don't find out.
All right. Okay, we have next on the agenda, motion to penalize, revoke, or suspend the beer permit for Alexander's, doing business as Driggers Inc., located at 535 Old Nashville Highway, for selling beer to a person under the age of 21. If we can have an officer please approach the podium to explain that for us. Please state your name and title again for the record.
Officer John Eubank, Laverne Police Department, Crime Suppression Unit.
Thank you, sir.
On Tuesday, March 10, 2009, in conjunction with the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, State of Tennessee, we sent an undercover informant to various businesses around the Laverne area, pretty much all of them that had permits, and Operation Young and Sober, in an attempt to find out who's selling alcohol or liquor to underage persons in the city of Laverne. At 535 Old Nashville Highway, Alexander's Bar, we sent our confidential informant in, again under pin camera, as well as it records video and audio. He was able to purchase a draft beer from Timothy P. O'Connor. Later on, court disposition, Mr. O'Connor pled guilty and was also placed under the diversion program. I have certified mail. It was signed by the permit holder, Mr. Drigger. However, on my certified mail return slip, there was not a date of delivery on there for that one. However, it was sent out within the 10-day period.
Okay. So the date of when it was received was just a postal error?
It appears that way, Chairman.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for the officer? No.
No questions.
All right. We will have someone here that represents Alexander's, doing business as Driggers Inc. Please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record.
David Riggers, 535 Old Nashville Highway.
All right. Do we have any questions? I have one. Is Tim O'Connor still in your employ?
No, ma'am. And we have since, the best way I saw to fix it was we now only allow 21 and up into the bar. So we now don't allow anyone under 21 in.
So I take that as you're saying you check ID at the door?
Correct.
Or doors?
Correct.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Madam Chairman, you may want to ask whether or not he disputes the sale took place.
I'm sorry, sir. I did not quite understand your question.
No, you may want to ask whether or not he disputes that the sale took place, as mentioned by the officer.
Understood. Do you dispute whether it happened? Okay. So you do admit that Mr. O'Connor did sell to a minor?
I believe so.
In your establishment?
I believe so.
Can you tell us how long Mr. O'Connor was employed by your establishment?
Not off the top of my head to specific, but it was right after that's when it was a mutual, and he just messed up. I mean, he was busy cleaning and looked at the ID, just didn't read it clear enough.
I mean, had he been there a year, a couple of years, 10 years?
Less than a year.
Oh, less than a year, okay. That's just looking for general guidance.
I
have
will,
no other questions.
I will state for those on the board that are not familiar, this is the second time Alexander's has been before us.
But this is the first time under this particular charge, correct?
Yes.
Could you go back and reinstate, explain to the board what the first offense was that you were up here for?
Well, the first offense was actually expunged. We were found not to have done anything wrong at the county level. So the state dismissed it, and they actually expunged my record because in their eyes, we didn't do anything wrong.
Okay, but let me change that question just a little bit. In the eyes of this board, you were found and fined for doing
We
what?
were fined, correct. Or we were, correct, we were.
For doing what? Is basically his question.
Tell you what, I don't remember. It was a sting. It was the machines, that were not ours. We allowed someone to put them in there, and which those machines are still throughout Rutherford County, but we don't have them anymore. But I mean, at the time, we had a letter of law, to our knowledge, that said that they were legal. That's the only way to allow them in there. But once this got to the district attorney in Murfreesboro, he dismissed. I can't remember. He had it dismissed, I believe. I'd have to pull the records. It went away. And we haven't ever since had the machines again. If I'd had any idea it was an issue, I would have never had them to start with. This, however, I fear is a violation, and it was an oversight, and I'm trying to correct it.
Well, I believe, if I recall correctly, I believe your last, what this board found you guilty of was illegal alcohol selling alcohol.
No, sir. We
No.
did. We without we
Brown
were.
bagging.
We didn't brown
Brown
bag.
bagging.
Okay.
They had admitted we didn't brown bag. It was the
Okay.
curb they had brown bag. We just had the machines.
Okay. All right, do we have any other questions, or are we ready to make a motion on whether or not our ordinance was offended?
I'll make the motion that our,
The exit,
was actually offended and, or violated, and we need to make sure that we pass that.
I'll make a second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, as for the next step is the punishment. And then one thing I'll put on the floor is this punishment needs to this board, whoever makes the motion, needs to have in their mind whether this is a second offense or a first. It's a second offense, in my opinion, against our ordinance.
Policies and ordinance.
It may not be the same offense, but it is a second offense.
May I add something? I believe that's over 7 years too, so this is not like a year-to-year thing.
I believe it was 2 years, wasn't it?
Oh no, I'm saying since I've had my permit.
Okay.
I'm talking
Right.
about, and looking over the long term, I mean, track record.
Looking at it as a second offense, I'm going to make a motion of 90-day suspension.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Roll call, Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Blair?
Aye.
Myself, aye.
No.
All right, the ayes want to have it. It has been deemed as a second offense with a 90-day suspension. All right, next order of business on the agenda, motion to penalize, revoke, or suspend the beer permit for Quick Sack Market, store number 616, located at 518 Waldron Road, for selling beer to a person under the age of 21. If we can have an officer, please come up to the stand and explain the situation?
Chairman, Board. Officer Buster Locklear, Laverne Police Department, Special Operations Division, Crime Suppression Unit.
Thank you, sir. And an ordinance with the Quick Sacks, store number 616.
Yes, ma'am. On the same operation, Operation Young and Sober, on March the 10th, with the assistance of the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission, Laverne Police Department Crime Suppression Unit conducted a attempt to purchase an alcoholic beverage using a 19-year-old unidentified confidential informant. He was successful in doing so and exited the location with a 24-ounce bottle of Mike's Hard Lemonade. We went back to the location, made contact with the cashier at the time, and the cashier was issued a citation. I have a copy of the citation and a copy of the affidavit. Also have a copy of the letter that was sent to the permit holder contact person with copies of the receipt for certified mail. And the defendant pled guilty, was given 11 months and 29 days probation, $250 fine, and 100 hours of community service, and used her diversion to handle that case.
Okay. I have a question. I'm not sure if this should go to the officer, Mr. Cope, or Mr. Richardson, and Mr. Cope has left the room. The Quick Sack 520 Waldron Road is where the permit is to. On our agenda, it says 518 Waldron Road. Exactly where did your sting take place, I guess would be my question? At 520 or 518?
The address on the police report has 520 Waldron Road.
520. So we had a mistake on the agenda because
was
the
mailed to
permit is
520.
actually for 520.
Well, the
I think the office is behind the store.
the
So both
Oh.
are
Both
actually,
have the same.
so 518 and 520 are the same building? Is that what we're establishing here?
From what we understand, it is, there's some paperwork that shows 518 and some that shows 520. The dispatch log shows
I want
518.
that clear.
There's one behind the store.
Okay. I just wanted that clear for the record this evening so that wasn't a future problem.
The permit itself has 518 on there. as
Correct.
the location.
Yeah,
Okay,
all
on-
these letters were sent to 518
Okay,
as
well,
well.
on our record, it says 520.
I'll check that.
Okay. All right, do we have any other questions for the officer? If not, we need the representative for Quick Sack, store number 616, located at 518 Waldron Road, to please approach the podium.
Here's where we can find out.
State your name.
Vinubhai Patel. Vinubhai, Vinubhai.
I don't know where I got that. Okay. All right. The main question I have for you is, do you disagree or agree that a minor was served or sold to in your establishment?
I agree with the sold.
All right. Are you a member of our Responsible
Vendors Act.
Thank you. Responsible Vendors Act for
Yes.
Tennessee. And do you have proof of that with you this evening, that you are a member of the Responsible Vendors Act?
Yes.
And can you provide a visual or copy thereof to the board?
Yeah, I can.
And I'd appreciate actually seeing that if you'd like to pass it to us.
No, thanks.
All right, I don't think we have an understanding.
What?
I'm trying to find, are you a member? In Tennessee, we have what's called the Responsible Vendors Act, which you as the store owner, as a seller of alcohol in Tennessee have gone through extra classes, train your employees in extra classes to become a member, which allows for different punishment to be settled should there be a problem. So what I'm trying to find out, are you a member of the Responsible Vendors Act? Yes, sir. If you'll introduce yourself, and if you have the answer to that question for me, I'd appreciate
My
it.
name is Jerry Patel. I just want to translate a little bit, see what we're trying to say.
Okay.
આપણે કોઈ પેલા મને ગયા ટ્રેનિંગમાં nobody went to the training for the beer sale
Okay.
or the alcoholic beverage.
Okay.
But
All right.
what he trying to say is it's a human error and innocent mistake. He will be honored, and I'm pretty sure if he were trying to say that he's on a probation like the officer says about it, and whatever the board decide, he will be agree to do it.
All right. So for the record, they are not a member of the Responsible Vendors Act. I don't know why that's so
Unless
hard
if
to
the
roll.
quick sec,
That
the corporate is there.
They would know if they were a member of this because they would have to go through more training.
Right.
Okay,
Okay?
I see what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't you go ahead and stay at the podium?
For just a second, in case we have more questions. This is a first time for the quick sack.
And hope it lasts down.
Yeah.
So do we. So do we.
I mean, as far as I know, I heard, excuse me, I just tried to, she did look the ID, but she didn't punch it in. That's all I know. I mean, she would have done it. The cash register should have told, say, not valid.
Australia not.
So the establishment is set up with the registers that stop
Of
it as
course,
long as the
yes.
employees actually push it in.
Yes, and there is ID on the door and ID on the cash register also.
Now, is the employee still at the establishment?
Yes. Because she's on a probation, so she comes to, I think she came a couple times, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then as a board, we need to make a motion on violation or non-violation to our ordinance.
I'll make a motion that our ordinance was violated.
I'll second that.
Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. As for punishment, we need a motion. With this being the first offense, I'll make the motion that, and the fact that they are not under the Responsible Vendors Act, that it's 14-day suspension with the capability of $1,500 civil penalty available.
I'll second that.
Before we have a roll call vote, I was looking at my copy of the BRX, and I think I have an old copy, but I was under the impression that they could not have a beer permit and employ someone who was caught in a sting. Did we not make that change in the?
I believe all that's in the ordinance is they cannot have been convicted of a felony.
Okay.
And due to the availability of the probation, it's not considered a felony that they're going through at this time.
Well, I mean, it's not before the board right now. The only thing before the board is determining the punishment, and if you want to talk about that, we can talk about that afterwards.
Okay. All right.
Can we consider the probation for the year also?
The only thing this board actually decides is whether or not our ordinance was broken, because when you come before us to get a beer permit, you are given the ordinance and explained to and asked questions about, do you understand? And when a violation is made against our ordinance, then we have a set little guideline of suspension, revocation, civil penalty. If you're a part of the Responsible Vendor Act, the suspension and revocation no longer apply, but the civil penalty is also still there. And that's basically our gamut as far as what we can decide upon. What the courts decide to hand down, whether it's probation or fines, is what they choose to do. We're not actually a court. We are the beer board protectors of the beer ordinance for Laverne.
So the probation's still going on?
Yes,
according
we
to the
have
court?
no control over the
Correct.
probation whatsoever.
It's a legal matter.
Yes.
No.
So at this time, we have a motion on the table of 14-day suspension with the possibility of the $1,500
Is it-
civil penalty in lieu thereof. It has been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. So do you understand the punishment? That you either have to stop selling for 15 days or you have up to 7 days to stop. But during that 7 days, you can come in and pay the $1,500 penalty and continue without having to stop selling. If you're not in here within the 7 days, then you have to shut your coolers down and not sell for 14 days. I explained that correctly? Wonderful. All right, thank you.
So he got a week
He has 7
to
days.
pay the penalty?
Yes,
Or cut out for 2 weeks,
yes,
one way or the other?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, last thing on the agenda is a motion to penalize, revoke, suspend the beer permit for Queen Discount Tobacco and Beer located at 606 Waldron Road for selling beer to a person under the age of 21. And if we can get one of the officers to come up. I thought we had another one.
Chairman, Board.
I realize we all haven't memorized, but if you don't mind for the record stating your name and title.
Officer Buster Locklear, Laverne Police Department, Special Operations Group, Crime Suppression Unit.
Thank you, sir. And in reference to 606 Waldron Road, Queen Discount Tobacco and Beer.
Yes, ma'am. On 3/10/2009, officers with the Laverne Police Department Crime Suppression Unit, with the assistance of Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission, conducted a citywide operation using a 19-year-old unidentified confidential informant and attempted to purchase alcoholic beverage. We were successful in doing so and purchased a 22-ounce bottle of Coors Light beer. We went back to the location a short time later, and after some communication problems, issued citation to the cashier, and I hope I'm saying his name right, Fatty Hennon. We have a copy of the affidavit, copy of the citation. Mr. Hennon pled guilty to the offense, received 11 months and 29 days supervised probation, $250 fine, and $100 or 100 hours community service. And he also used his aversion. We also have a copy of the letter that was sent to the contact person, permit holder, and copies of the receipt for the certified mail. This one was also delivered within a 10-day period, sent out on the 12th and was received on the 20th.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the officer? Anything they need clarified? All right. With no questions, thank you, sir, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The representative for Queen Discount Tobacco and Beer. If that representative will please approach the podium. State your name and address for the record, please.
Naguib Fahmi, 606 Waldron Road, Laverne. Queen Discount Tobacco and Beer.
Thank you, sir. Do you agree that there was alcohol sold to a minor in your establishment, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Have you implemented any changes to ensure this does not happen again?
Yeah, it happened with the employees. He served alcohol underage, and the reason for that, he was very sad because they hold up the store one day before and broke everything, damaged everything. So he is a good guy, and he is working over there more than 2 years, and he doesn't do anything. If you check his record, he is good, but law is law. Andre, here's this, or police report.
See that, please?
And it's not this is the first time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This 4 times broke down. 1, 2, 3, 4.
For the record, what's being shown is
It's 4 times broke the story and damage everything. And this record I take it is 1 year before I take this storage, nothing is clear. I don't know what is the reason when I start this business broke.
okay. Let me finish. For the record, what's being shown to us is the fact that this establishment was burglarized a few days prior to the day prior, to the sting. It was burglarized on March 9th, 2009, which is what has been passed to the board. And the fact to believe that it has been burglarized more often than that is the other things that are being shown to us. That's the police report copies for up to 3 times, 4 times?
4 times.
4 times. While appreciating this information, it's not relevant to this board. It's not something we're in control of. Our relevance is strictly due to the selling of minor or not abiding by the ordinances for the beer board. At this time, do we have someone making a motion that our ordinance itself was violated?
I'll make a motion that the ordinance was violated.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. In reference to Queen Discount Tobacco and Beer located at 606 Waldron, we have made the motion and so approved that there was a violation. Do we have a motion for punishment?
My only comment, you've given us evidence that your store's been burglarized several times, and are you related to the cashier, Mr. Haneen? Is there any relation there?
Yeah, he is working over there. He is an employee.
I'm sorry?
He is an employee over there. He is working in the storage. I'm the owner.
Are you related to him? Family?
No.
Okay.
It's not family.
All right. I guess my concern, as you mentioned, was he in a bad state of mind because of the burglary? Was he upset about it and that's why he just missed the card?
He checked ID, but he is confused between 18 and 21.
Okay, so he's confused about the difference between 18 and 21, but...
For a bad situation, because situation was worse after damage everything, and he doesn't sleep enough one day before because we fixed everything until he start working next day. So he was sad. So for this reason, I think this is...
I guess I'm just concerned because our, and I don't know if I'm assuming it's a Tennessee driver's license is being shown. Okay. Tennessee's driver licenses, if they're under 21, it says in big red letters under 21. And what has me concerned is you're giving us proof that your establishment's been burglarized several times, and that has something to do with the reason that he missed this card. Then are we to assume that every time that your establishment is burglarized, the alcohol is going to be sold to minors? No, I don't think I don't think you mean yes.
I know it should be, it doesn't serve alcohol underage.
Okay.
It's happened for this reason.
I think we have a communication issue. I guess what I'm trying to say, this was just, what you're saying is this was just an honest mistake, hasn't happened before, and you don't see any reason that it's going to happen again?
I don't think so it's happening again because this is the first one. And he already working in same the storage before I buy this business, like 18 months plus from January to September, like 18 plus 9. So more than 2 years is working same place over there.
Right.
And his record is clear. He doesn't do any mistake before.
Do you understand that he's trying to explain to us he's only had this permit for 8 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they have to understand the law before they get the
This is
permit
true.
the first time. So
This is true.
your employee has to understand the law between 18 and 21.
Yes, he
This
has.
board cannot control that.
He knows
So
that.
I'm going to make a motion that it's either a 14-day suspension or in lieu of a $1,500 fine.
And I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
No.
Okay. Roll call. Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Jolly?
No.
And myself, aye. So the ayes have it. You have received from this board a 14-day suspension, or you can pay $1,500 fine and continue to sell. You have 7 days to make that decision. Within 7 days, you either have to come in to City Hall during business hours and pay the $1,500, or within 7 days, shut down your beer coolers and stop beer sales for 14 days. Yes.
Or $1,500?
Yes, sir. And you have 7 days to decide.
Okay, will be paid like 1,500, but because if we close, we lose the business.
I understand that.
And he has many kids, so it's terrible. And the business already is down, you know.
Understood, and my apologies for that, but unfortunately, the employees have to understand this is your business. They have to do it right for you, because we have to do what we have to do is to protect the city and the children in the city. If you choose to do the fine, it can be paid anytime during regular business hours here at City Hall. Okay?
Okay, and I know what about serve alcohol. I'm working for 2 biggest hotel in the Tennessee, Gaylord Opryland and the Renaissance Nashville Hotel, and I serve alcohol from 1996 as server. I didn't do any mistake. And I know Tennessee law, this is federal law, and I know that.
All the more reason to stress to your employees that it's your business in your pocket being attacked when they do wrong.
Okay.
So my apologies, and please feel free to take your copies back so you have those for your record. And as a Laverne citizen, my apologies for that having happened to you 4 times. I wish it hadn't. Yes, sir.
So we still sell right now?
For 7 days.
You have up to 7 days to decide whether you want to pay the $1,500 or stop for 14.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You have a good evening. Do we have any other business?
Item number 3.
Item number 3. Did we have a representative appear for a reapplication beer permit on Laverne Smokes and Brews? Thank you, Mr. Richardson. I had forgot.
Our rules of procedure allow for that to be deferred until the next meeting.
Okay, so we do not have anyone here, so we can I take it he's not for, okay. Then do we have a motion to I'll make a motion to defer the renewal permit for Laverne Smokes and Brews to our next meeting.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, do we have any other business at hand? Other than Old Timers Day, Saturday, starting at Rescue Squad,
5 in the morning,
finishing when you pass out at the park because it's such a long day.
whichever one comes first.
Exactly. I have no other comments or business. No one else? Then we call the meeting of the Beer Board adjourned.